Chapter 29. Cuba's youth receive hurried red training. Mystery Man heads art schools which teach Marx-Lenin theory. Hatred of US. My 15th birthday was nothing like I'd planned. Definitely not what I imagined the year before when Yvette and I started dreaming about our quinces. So let's pause already. She's looking back to this time when she was dreaming about her quince with Yvette. So think back throughout the entire novel. And I want you to write down in your margins 2 things that have changed about Lucia since she started dreaming about her 15th birthday. All day at school, I thought about my parents. What were they doing? Was today as hard for them as it was for me? Turning 15 had always been something I'd look forward to, a day when I'd finally be considered a young lady. Now, I just wanted it to be over. On the school bus, I sat quietly and leaned my head against the seat back. The gray skies outside matched my mood, and Jennifer knew that my thoughts were far away, somewhere on a tropical island. There I would have celebrated my birthday by having a huge party where 14 couples would twirl around the dance floor as I made my grand entrance. I'd be wearing a beautiful long dress, something made especially for me, copied from one of the latest Parisian designs. I'd look like a princess, and it would have been my official introduction into Cuban society. Then again, with the revolution, I may not have had a party at all, but at least I would have spent the day with my parents, and we could have gone to the beach and celebrated with Yvette. A shiver ran down my spine. I glanced down at the sweater, boots, coat, and scarf I was wearing. All these clothes, and I was still freezing. At home, a light sweater was all I ever needed, even in the middle of winter. So, we're on for Saturday? Jennifer asked. Huh? I looked out the window. We were getting close to my stop. For the matinee of breakfast at Tiffany's. It's my treat, remember? For your birthday. Oh, right. Jennifer knew I was dying to see Audrey Hepburn and that the last movie I'd seen was La Dolce Vita back in Cuba. I gave her a half-hearted smile, but I just couldn't shake my dreariness. She leaned a little closer to me. You think you'll hear from your parents today? I shrugged and looked down. Hey, look, Jennifer pointed outside. It's snowing. A sudden rush of excitement filled the bus as everyone scrambled against the windows. Shouts of snow and woohoo filled the air. I, on the other hand, said nothing. I only stared as the small white flakes fell to the ground. It looked like little bits of powdery sand floating in the air. For everyone else on the bus, it was the first snow of the season, but for Frankie and me, it was the first one of our lives. A moment later, the bus squealed to a stop. Hurry, Lucy, hurry! Frankie rushed past me and jumped out the door. I could see him out by the now barren field, trying to catch the snowflakes. Bye, Jennifer. Thanks for everything. I gave her a quick hug and ran outside. Try to get one, Lucy, Frankie called out. They disappear every time I touch them. Look at your clothes, I said, staring at the flakes perched on my green coat sleeve. I never knew how intricate their shapes really were. How long do you think it'll be before we can build a snowman? No sé, couple of days maybe? This is all new to me too. Frankie stared straight up. This is cool, he muttered. Everyone should get to see this. He opened his mouth to try to eat some of it. A sharp pain sliced through my heart. Mama and Papa had never seen snow. I wondered if they ever would. So let's pause. And in the margins, I want you to finish this sentence. Lucia feels, and fill in the blank. I followed Frankie's lead and looked up at the falling snow. It felt like soft kisses from heaven landing on my nose and forehead, almost as if someone were trying to tell me not to be sad, that everything would be all right. Frankie twirled around and around. This is great! What a birthday! He shouted. As we walked down the small road toward the Baxter farm, the ground started to turn white. By the time we got to the Baxters' front porch, a thin layer of snow had covered the top railing. Frankie ran his hand over the long piece of wood and quickly flicked a bit of snow toward me. The white powder scattered against my coat. I dropped my books on the floor of the porch and chased Frankie out into the field. For the next hour, I ran around like a little kid, swiping at the flurries as the wind blew stronger, and the harder it snowed, the better Frankie and I liked it. So let's pause. This line, I ran around like a little kid. Think about that phrasing that the author chose here. And then I want you to answer this question. Has Lucia acted like a little kid since she got to America? And why or why not? It's almost 5. You two snow-loving kids need to come inside and get ready for dinner. We have a birthday to celebrate, Mrs. Baxter yelled from the front door. We ran inside, shaking the ice crystals off our clothes. Gee whiz, is it always like that? Frankie tossed aside his scarf while he hung up his coat. Frankie. Mrs. Baxter pointed to the scarf. Yes, ma'am. He picked it up and draped it over the large hook. Mrs. Baxter smiled. Just wait till tonight. You haven't seen anything yet. I'm going to watch it some more. Frankie ran toward the large picture window. Should I go ahead and set the table? I asked. Sure, but Mr. Baxter isn't home yet. It's a good thing we're celebrating your birthday with the kind of day he's had. She opened the bottom drawer of the china cabinet. He has a soft spot for you kids, you know? Soft spot? I don't understand. Mrs. Baxter took something out of the drawer and held it behind her back as she turned around to face me. It means he has a warm place in his heart. I was confused. His heart is warm? Is that why he went to the doctor today? She laughed. No, no. The doctor told him his back needs more time to heal. It'll be another couple of months before he can farm again, but his heart is fine. What I meant to say is that he likes having you and Frankie around. She gave me a wink. Keeps his mind off his injury. Oh. Even though Mr. Baxter never said much, he'd started to toss a ball around with Frankie every night after dinner. He also drove me to Jennifer's house on Saturdays when he went to work. Maybe he did like us. I have something for you. Mrs. Baxter held a small black box tied with a thin pink ribbon. It's not much. I used to wear it when I was your age, but since I never had a daughter, well, I just thought you might like to have it. I opened the box. Inside was a gold chain with a small cross. It reminded me of my silver necklace back in Cuba. Do you like it? She asked. I could barely get the words out. It's beautiful. I love it. I gave Mrs. Baxter a big hug. Thank you. She turned me around and draped the necklace in front of me. As she fastened the clasp in the back, she whispered, You're a very special girl, Lucia Alvarez. I'm very glad you came into our lives. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Feelings of sadness and joy overwhelmed me. I missed Mama and Papa so much, yet the Baxters were such kind people that I couldn't be completely unhappy. On a day when I should have been miserable, I actually wanted to laugh. Mrs. Baxter rubbed my arms. I think I hear Mr. Baxter's car. You and Frankie go wash up. I made your favorites tonight. I looked back at her. You mean, she smiled. Mm-hmm. Cheeseburgers, french fries, and chocolate cake for dessert. This is for you, Lucy. I did it myself. Frankie reached under the table and gave me a frame made out of popsicle sticks. You can put that picture of Mama and Papa with us at the beach in it. Mail came. Mr. Baxter placed an envelope next to my dinner plate. Immediately, I knew it was a birthday card from my parents. Read it, Frankie said, passing the french fries. I opened Mama and Papa's card. It showed a beautiful girl holding a bouquet of flowers with the words Feliz cumpleaños written in silver letters. I showed everyone at the table. Inside, Mama wrote about how she missed me, about how on the day I was born, she realized that the only thing she'd ever wanted was to be my mother. She said that Frankie and I were her most prized possessions, and knowing that we were safe was the only way she could survive being apart from me on my 15th birthday. I took a deep breath. Papa simply wrote that he loved me very much. He said that Mama had made the card sappy enough and that he hoped I was happy celebrating my day, that hopefully we would be together soon. I smiled. It was typical of Papa to try to get me into a better mood, even from far away. Frankie took a bite of his cheeseburger. Ketchup squirted out the sides and onto his cheek. Nothing for me, huh? What did you expect? It's my birthday. Oh, wait, it says here that they send their love to my annoying little brother. Ha ha, very funny. Mr. Baxter wiped his mouth with his napkin. Guess everyone gave you their presents. I touched the little gold cross. I hoped he wasn't upset that I had been given such a nice gift. I could always give it back. Except me. He glanced out the window. Thought if the weather clears up this weekend, I'd teach you how to drive, if you want. I wasn't sure I understood correctly. Even Mamma didn't know how to drive. She never thought it was necessary. A car? I asked. Mr. Baxter nodded. You're 15. You can get a learner's permit. I couldn't believe it. I, Lucia Alvarez, was actually going to learn how to drive. I jumped up and gave him a hug. Oh, he patted me on the shoulder. Well, yes, that'll do. I stepped back and smiled. This hadn't been such a horrible day after all. The glow from my desk light created a funny shadow against the room's wood paneling. I stared at the blank piece of paper in front of me. I didn't know how to start my letter to my parents. Should I mention the gifts the Baxter gave me? Would that make them happy or sad? Lucia? I looked up to see Mr. Baxter standing in my doorway. Yes, sir? He took a step in and held out an envelope. This got mixed in with some of the bills. It's for you, from Cuba. Immediately, I reached out for it and noticed it had no return address. Yet I knew the handwriting. It was from Yvette. It's from my best friend in Cuba. Hmm. Mr. Baxter nodded as he turned to go back down the hall. The familiar handwriting brought back memories of all the notes we used to pass each other in class. Now our notes would have to travel much farther. I sat on the bed and opened the envelope. Dear Lucy, I saw your mother the other day, and she told me that you'd written me several letters to apologize for how things had ended between us. I want you to know that I never received any of your letters, but of course, I forgive you for everything. I'm figuring that my parents threw the letters away because they think you might be a bad influence on me. I don't care what they think. We are still best friends, right? Who else will travel to Paris with me to see all the fashion houses someday? I nodded, as if she could see me answer her. But just so I can get your letters, send them to your house, and I'll come up with an excuse to pass by and see your parents. I'll only be able to do this every once in a while because now that your parents have requested exit visas, they're always being watched. My heart leapt into my throat. My parents had asked to leave Cuba? Why hadn't they told me? I knew exit visas could take months and sometimes years to be approved. But why not say something? So let's pause. If this is a new term, go ahead and look that up and write it down in the margin. Did this mean there was no chance of my going home? My hands trembled as I read more of Yvette's letter, but the next couple of paragraphs only talked about the latest school gossip and how the brigadista uniform was now considered all the rage. But then her tone got serious. Lucy, something happened to me this summer that I haven't been able to tell anyone. I can't keep it inside any longer, but you have to promise not to tell and to never, ever bring it up again. Do you promise? I silently made the promise. I'm not even sure how to write about it. See, while I was working with the brigades in one of the mountain villages, I met this really cute soldier. I won't even tell you his name because that's not important. We started talking every day, and he'd sit with me and wait for my bus. One evening, he asked if he could walk me back to where I was living instead of my taking the bus. He said that way we could talk a little more. Lucy, he didn't want to just talk or kiss. He wanted much more. I gasped. If only I'd been there for her to help her. I was almost afraid to keep reading. I took a deep breath and looked back at her letter. I screamed when he grabbed me, but no one seemed to hear. I'm not sure if in the end he was too strong for me or if I was just too scared to fight back. It was the worst night of my life, and afterward, he never even spoke to me again. My stomach churned. This was much worse than I imagined. I hated the soldiers. All of them. Please, please don't say anything, not even to me, and don't blame the brigades or the revolution. I was just, well, I was just unlucky. Unlucky? This didn't sound like Yvette. Where was her anger? Her thoughts about payback and getting even. That soldier was scum, and something should be done about it. How about you? I hope you haven't been caught in any race riots. I read that they are happening everywhere and how everything is so dangerous in the United States. There are so many awful, violent people living there. I don't know how you are surviving. But don't worry, soon your parents will realize that things are better here, and they'll forget about leaving and bringing you back. You'll finally escape that nightmare. I sighed. After seeing both countries firsthand, it seemed like Yvette was the one who needed to survive. She signed the letter, Besos, Yvette, but it was the three words written in large letters at the very bottom of the page that sent a chill down my spine. It simply said, Viva la Revolucion. Well, let's pause. Why do these words, Viva la Revolucion, why do they send a chill down Lucia's spine? I want you to clarify that in your margins of your book.